We're on.
Well, welcome back. This is Q&A for
Developing discernment.
Developing discernment and trying to kind of understand the different voices inside you and discerning the world around you.
Or any other questions you might want to ask now.
Yeah, right. And you were sharing just a little bit right before when we were off about your experience.
Right, so what I noticed when working with clients as a massage therapist is I've learned to teach them to notice what's happening in their body. And I use my own body as a divination tool to get yeses or nos, but bringing in the idea of higher self was something that I have done unconsciously, but I really appreciate your perspective on it, to actually feel the higher self as a separate voice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And part of the benefit for me, and because she actually taught me that, I will give her credit. But for me, that benefit is when I can kick myself up to the higher self, it literally shows me an overview of what's happening versus right here in the body. And it's a very important thing. As I said earlier in the talk, though, don't always think that that's the one that you need to listen to. Sometimes you need to listen to the body. Sometimes, very seldom in my world, the mind. But
it's good to have the different perspectives, and so thank you for sharing that, because it is good to have the different perspectives of the different parts of ourselves.
It is.
What about discerning external things for yourself? You feel like you're good at that? You feel like you can do that pretty well? Not so good at that? You tend to agree with what other people say, or?
Yeah, so that's what is confusing, right? As you used me as an example, like of the readings, right?
Was I talking about you? Yeah.
So sometimes I don't know, like, I mean, if there are like techniques where when you get like two different readings completely opposite, right? And then when you have a life situation, and then sometimes it's so hard, like, you know, because there are these voices, right? You know, that's like against it, and there's like, you know, that wants to do it, and he says no.
So,
and then it clouds your judgment, right? And so I try to now talk to my inner voice on what I want.
Yes.
That's what I do, but then there are other times and these pop up, right?
Yes.
So how do I just focus on my inner self rather than these external voices? Yeah.
For me, what it is I hear the voices, I hear the external voices and the input, and just you think of it, it's just data input. And so you look at it, you run it into this computer, basically, and you go, okay, is this the right for me, or is this right for me? And you let your own body, you let your own mind, you let your own higher self then take those data points, coalesce them, integrate them, and show you which is best.
Because sometimes you were talking specifically about like psychic readings and getting two totally different psychic readings, and what do you do with that information? Sometimes getting readings, or even just a friend giving you advice, you know, it's good sometimes to get a perspective of someone that you didn't perhaps, or a different perspective than what you want, or than what you really expected. So that goes back to that confirmation bias that we were talking about. So we don't always. Let me give an example. Let's say I'm looking for a new job and I can't figure out what I want to do or which job's right for me. And this psychic tells me this job's right for me, and this psychic tells me this job's right for me. I still have to come back. I have to listen to both of them, or my friends. They tell me this job's right? I have to listen to everybody, all the data input coming into my computer, and then I have to go inside and go, now, looking at all the pros and cons, the information I've been given, what's right now for me? And so it may be that one of the jobs is right for you 5 years from now, or one of the jobs was right for you 5 years ago, but it's not today. And so you have to go in, that's that learning to discern the internal voices to decide what's right for you. But don't just because a person, psychic, friend, whatever, says one thing that's totally different than what you want, don't throw it out.
Right.
Listen to it, hear it, and then that's where you discern, is that information that's totally like, they're telling me I should take that job, and man, I really don't want that job. Why do they think that? You know, maybe these are the characteristics of that job they think would be good for you. And you go, well, maybe I think these characteristics are right, but that job is not right.
Yeah.
So it really is about taking in all the data, all the input into the computer, and then processing it and sitting with it. Sometimes learning to connect with that higher self of your higher self, rather than just body and mind, is real helpful, because that's when you can sit in meditation, sit with yourself quietly, and ask the higher self what's right. Now again, you have to be careful, because our mind, our ego, can mimic anything. So our mind and ego might go, I'm your higher self. Take the one with the most money, right? And it may not be the right job for you.
Right.
So you do. That's why we're saying practice this little thing, this little exercise, because it helps you differentiate the voices, and then helps you better make a choice for what's right for you. Yes.
Well, I was gonna add something, that sometimes, you're asking the wrong question. So, I had a situation where I wanted to travel to Denver to take a class, and every time I tried to make my travel arrangements, it was like, no. I'm like, okay, how am I supposed to get there? I kept asking, how am I supposed to get there, until I got a terrible stomach virus, and then I realized I wasn't asking, am I supposed to go?
Right. Right.
So,
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's about
Sometimes refining the question.
stepping
Yes.
back and asking other questions.
Yeah.
right.
Right. Correct.
And it's always good to get external input, it really is, but you have to remember, any external input you get, whether it's from Trish, me, some psychic, some whoever, it's really only how we see that particular thing, and that's coming through our own filters. So you have to take that information, bring it inside, and see what fits for you. Now, I don't know what your readings were or what you were asking about. I can guess, but I'm not going to. But what it may be is, if it's a strict yes or no, most questions are more nuanced than that. All right, so you may want to, as she said, refine your question a little bit. You may find that the answers you got from them, though they seem contradictory, when you bring them in and closely look at them, there may be things inside of each one that actually are what's applicable to your question, versus just the whole answer from either one. And I think that's pretty much what I told you that day.
So that's the discernment, and that's the
Yeah.
discernment about external information coming to you, and that I think where people often make the mistake is they turn their power over to somebody else, whether that's a friend that they think is more knowledgeable, or a parent, or a psychic, or a medium, or whatever. The government, they turn their power over to somebody else, and they just believe what that person says all the time. Maybe a particular news station you watch, well, that's the news station I always watch. If they said it, it's gotta be true. That's not the case, right? So it really is about whatever you hear, receive in your data, that data input, is to sit with that and see if it's accurate. And you may, if you think about someone that you admire, you may go, I admire this person, and what they say I think is important. Yet everything they say might not be correct for you.
Correct.
So again, you have to look at that and go, what part of that fits for me today? Again, may work later down the road, but what fits for me today? And you don't have to throw that person that you value their input, throw them out just because they gave you one-time information that didn't fit for you.
Right.
You can still admire them and see them as a good teacher, or read their books or whatever, and not accept everything they say. That's about that personal integrity, personal power, and going within to make those decisions.
And like any good video game, there are levels in this one. So what worked for you, the information that you got at one point that was highly functional for you, you leveled up and suddenly it doesn't work so well anymore. And you have to go, okay, now let's find what works at this level. And I will tell you, this is an interesting thing that's happening at this moment in time, is people are leveling up very, very quickly. Used to, you could spend, your entire life on one level. Right now, if you are one of those who is going through the awakening process, you're going whoop, 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 very, very rapidly. And it can sometimes create a lot of dissonance inside of you. It can create some somatic dissonance on a regular basis as well right now. So be aware of those things. And that too is part of the discernment. Where am I at this point? So please hear, what we keep directing you to is back inside, back inside, back inside. Please don't give your power away to everybody else. They don't need it, you do. It's your power, your God and goddess. It's your creation that you're creating, not somebody else's.
But I'd rather take someone else's advice, cause then I can blame them when it doesn't work out.
That's why I got married.
But you told me, and you were wrong. And that's again, back to having your own power, bringing
Right.
it inside. Seeing it all as just an input, information, stuff that can help you make a decision.
The other thing to remember too is there's no wrong decision. A lot of times we throw ourselves into what I call analysis paralysis. We get so busy looking at this and this and this and this that we're stuck. And the reality is, just do something. If it's not quite what you wanted or it didn't give you the results you wanted, do something else. But for heaven's sakes, don't do the same thing over and over again and try it harder, because if it didn't work the first time, it's probably not going to work the second, third, 400th, 500th time you try it. Right? Try and be willing to try something new and different.
Does that make sense? Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, because everybody, as you said, is gonna have a different opinion because they
Yeah.
come from their own space.
We're each at different.
And we see the world at different levels, and we have different life experiences, so we're all gonna have,
Yeah, we're each a different facet of this gem that is source. Okay, and the light that comes through one facet may be violet. The light that comes through another facet may be red. Doesn't make it right or wrong. It's just the light that's coming through that facet. And if we recognize it for that, and we recognize the facet that we are, then we find that which aligns with us. And that's the whole goal.
anything else?
I have a question for you as the center owners. When people come to you with wanting to provide different classes,
Yeah.
does it ever set off your hooey meter?
Yes.
Boing, boing,
In
yes.
which case, do you screen that or do
Yes.
you allow it?
No.
The answer is
Okay.
no. The answer is actually yes.
Yes, we screen it.
We screen it, and yes, we may allow it at the
Depends.
same time.
Depends
Depends on
what it is.
what it is. All right. Sometimes.
Yeah, I'm wondering how you discern.
Well, I'll give it. There was a group.
Part of that's our life experience. as
Yeah.
well. Part of it's just we've been around the block a lot. You know,
Right.
because we're not new kids here. So
Right.
we've seen lots of things come and go over the years, and sometimes they come back around. So there may
Sometimes
be
they're
something,
repackaged.
something that we know was nothing, or maybe for some reason got shut down, and now it's back with a new name, and it's the same thing, and so we go, no. So there is some discernment
Mhm.
that goes on. And matter of fact, there's even discernment about individuals as well,
Yes,
and who can
right.
participate here.
Correct. And that sometimes it's just about an energetic sense. We have someone who keeps declaring that they are going to have a permanent office here, and
We keep telling them they're
I
not.
keep smiling and say right after hell thaws out the fourth time.
But that's not that
But
they're a
that's
bad
not their
person.
bad, it's just that their energy is not going, that they would come in, they would start, and they would be gone. Not because we forced them, not because we didn't like them, they couldn't ride the vibe, is really what it is. Now, another example, we had a group that came in, we kind of rolled our eyes a little at what they were teaching, but again, they're
We
teaching
felt it
something
wasn't
that's.
right for us, but
Right.
it might be okay for somebody
Right.
else.
It may be good for people who are just kind of learning
Getting
and
started.
brand new on the path. So we said, sure, you can come, you can rent the space, you can have a class here. They had the class, the only people who showed up for that class were the people we suggested go take the class.
That was a free class.
And it was free. And then they came back and said, okay, well, we want an entire weekend because we want to teach in level 1 of this training. And we said, okay, you can do that. Well, then they had no one sign up for the class. To me, that's about letting the universe kind of wash out what doesn't need to be in this space. All right, we'll allow you to try, but we may not put any energy towards helping you, if we don't think it's something that's gonna really fly, but we don't try and stop your learning either, and your.
Well, the other thing too is that we have a mission, we have a
Mhm.
purpose, you know, it is mind, body, spirit, but it is, helping people wake up and
Mhm.
helping people move forward on their path. So we had a group that wanted to rent this space, it's really large, it's a big yoga center for those that aren't here. And they wanted to rent this space to teach Bollywood dancing, which would have been fine, and would have been some really good money coming in the door. I have no problem with Bollywood dancing, I think it's fabulous, it's fun to watch, right? But it's not in alignment with what we're trying to do.
Right.
It's a nice thing, it's, perhaps you could call it exercise, it's a very targeted market for them, and it's not, it would just be renting space.
Right.
It wouldn't be like they wanted to be a part of the center, they wanted to like have come to spiritual talks or be involved, and we're looking for groups and people that want to grow together and be cohesive. So we do have people who come along that just wanna rent space for things that have nothing to do with what our purpose and mission are, and we have
Right.
said no to them as
Right.
well. Even though the money might have been nice, but it just would not have furthered the energy that we want to further. So there is that level of discernment
Yeah.
as a business owner as well. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Did you have something in mind particularly? Did you wanna come teach something?
She's considering it. So yeah, you know, discernment, it's just really, we just wanna encourage you to get that internal conversation
Mhm.
going, so you know which part of you is answering and what's behind your highest and best. Look at all the wonderful, amazing, crazy things that are out there, the information and things like herbs and vitamins or whatever. Look at all the crazy stuff that's out there and decide what's right for you.
Right.
And what's right for you may not be what's right for me.
And
And
just,
what's right for me may not be what's right for you.
and just realize, it is really a game, don't take it seriously. There is nothing serious about life on this planet.
Well, and it's fun to do and learn different things. We go see different
Yeah.
psychics, we call it entertainment. You know, and if they say something of value, we go, great, I'll look at that.
We
And
had,
if they don't, we go, well, that was just kind of
it
fun.
was kinda fun, yeah, alright.
And so I think it's about, again, not giving your power away to somebody else, it's about learning how to discern for you, learning how to look inside, learning what's right for you, and don't let the expert, whatever they're an expert in, be the one that tells you how to do it and what to do.
And I think I may have developed a slightly stronger Hui meter than usual, because I had a mother who falls for every scam that's ever walked on this planet.
Yes, you did. Yes,
She
you
still
did.
does, 84 years old, she's still falling for everyone that comes by.
Luckily, she doesn't watch these.
Yeah, she does, she knows I think that anyway, so.
Ah, but yes, and you know those people, right?
Right.
They just fall for everybody's story and everybody's everything.
I will say, and I will tick off a few people when I say this, but the first place that I will always apply my Hui meter is when someone comes to me and says, I've got this great multi-level marketing product. Alright,
Some of
I
them are
have
good
nothing
products,
against
but-
MLMs, it's a wonderful process. But I've been around long enough to know that they tend to overpromise and underdeliver, especially on the amount of money that you may be able to make doing it with no effort. Alright, so I'll just say that and leave it out there.
Yeah, right. We're gonna get all these nasty notes. Well, mine is good. You know, and again, if it's right for them at the moment, then it's right for them. So, you know, I think a lot of people that may find that multi-level marketing works for them, but it's not everything for everybody. I'm trying to be nice.
Just turn your Hui meter on when you hear network marketing or multi-level marketing, please.
Well, and the other thing I'm gonna say is, the other time, I was just teaching a class here on mediumship. And the other thing that I wanna be very clear about is that there are people who, do try to take advantage of people who are not discerning. And so if someone ever says to you, you have a curse on you, if you will pay me $300, I will get rid of it for you. But if you don't pay me, you're gonna have to live with that curse, right? that would be one of those times my Hui meter would go off and say that's not okay. Anybody who says, you've got attachments, you've got blah blah, you gotta pay me a lot of money to fix you, then that becomes scammy to me. And so in my personal discernment, I would say that that's not in integrity. And that's one of those things that, for me, that would not be integrous.
And don't hear in that we don't think that hitchhikers or attachments aren't real.
No.
They are.
Right.
But
Voodoo believes in curses
Right.
as Santeria and those kind of things.
But what I would always do is I would encourage you to find what it is inside of you that's attracted this and what you can do to clear it on your own, because if you attracted it the first time, you're going to attract it another time, and you don't need to constantly be running to someone else
To fix you.
fix you.
Yeah.
Right? This is about spiritual maturity, folks. The more mature you become spiritually, the more you own your power, the more you own, in the Hindu term, your siddhis, your gifts, your strengths, those things. Every one of us, we've said this over and over, every one of us is actually source incarnated into a body. We have the full ability, the full protection of source in every moment of our existence. Never without it.
Are you sourced?
I am source.
Am I sourced?
You're pretty saucy.
You think you're funny. Anyway, that's it. Any other questions, comments, thoughts, any other topics, anything? We're good?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching,
Good night.
John Boy.